Hi, y'all. I'm your host, Ryan Schreiber, and thank you for joining me again on Office Hours. This is episode 3 of our podcast called Preparing for an Uncertain Future. And it's the second part of a two-part series. In the last episode, part 1 of this series, Peter Rentschler, the CEO of CarrierDirect, joined me. And we talked about looking inward at your business and shared 3 opportunities we constantly see to remove like waste in your business, which is applicable all the time, but certainly more pressing now. So if you're new to Office Hours, the podcast was born from hundreds of hours of conversations with our clients and the desire to help business leaders tackle the very now problems facing their business. As the premier technology delivery and consulting firm working in freight and logistics, we have a really broad perspective, and Office Hours seemed like the best way for us to share that perspective with as many people as possible. Something I've been wanting to do for quite some time, and it's just taking shape now. So, thanks for joining with me to this point, and I hope you've been enjoying what you've been listening to. As I said, this is episode 3, preparing for an uncertain future, and to this point, we focused our content. Just to be sort of, as I said earlier, applicable all the time, but maybe more pressing now because of some of the things that are going on in the environment with COVID-19 and the economy. Um, Today, this episode's a little bit different. The business realities today are very, very different than anything that we've faced before, and uh, like right now we're going to talk about what to do if you're facing some drastic cost cuts and layoffs. And this isn't something that is necessarily always generally applicable. Some of the advice today definitely has applications in your business always. But this was the first time where I want to kind of call out, like, we're going to talk about something that's maybe a little bit gonna age a little bit, if you will. So to tackle this episode kind of breaks down into 3 parts. First is like how to use the people you have while you have them. Um, Second is areas to look for Hail Marys, and third is like finally if all else fails. So part 1, in our conversations, there are basically 2 reasons that people have been looking toward layoffs and cost cutting. Uh, you may fall in one camp, which is like you just don't have enough work to go around, right? Like you can afford to keep people around, but like there's just not work for them to do. The other is like, hey, we're not sure what the economy is gonna do, and like we definitely cannot afford to keep these people on, and we need to let them go. We're gonna keep them as long as we can, and so this section really kind of we're gonna talk about like what to do with those people while you have them, or what you can do with them to keep from losing them just because they don't have work to do. So, like, uh, just for starters, take a look at your teams. Like, regardless of which of those 2 camps you fall in, consider doing what I would call bringing people into the palace, so to speak. Like, this really is like, can you use your team on initiatives, particularly leadership initiatives, that are stalled or could use extra. Whether you can afford it, but don't want to have people just sitting around, or you see it as inevitable but want to do the right thing, there are opportunities to look at how you're using your staff between now and making any of those cuts. With the current state, there are opportunities to work on things that you've always wanted to, but put off or deprioritized. Like, so now, like, look at maybe redeploying folks to help with these. Whether you've like, and why you haven't in the past doesn't necessarily matter, but like typically we see that, hey, we want to keep people focused on doing their job or the job at hand. Some of that has gone away, and there are opportunities to review that. So like in the last episode we talked about 3 places to look in your business for opportunities. Some of these folks can help with that. If you're not sure whether or where to bring in people for help, consider like these 3 really incredible high impact, high value areas. First, look at tasking folks with filling the top of your sales funnel for prospective new customers. We are hearing from people and clients across the board that decision makers are available now more than ever and have time to talk. You certainly have to lead with empathy, and reaching out to close brand new intros will be difficult and may end up closing the door forever. But lead generation and starting conversations with prospective new customers to talk about the challenges that they're facing in their business today will deliver really great rewards later. That's about setting you up for that long term success. You may not be able to close business. You may need to consider how to approach those conversations differently, but you can use folks to really fill the top of that funnel for the other side of this economic slowdown. The second, consider re onboarding the customers that you already have, particularly the ones that aren't shipping right now. With the freight market slowed, this provides an excuse to double down on your relationships and reinforce your value proposition as a service provider, drive mutual benefit with your customers while also kickstarting business on the other side of this slowdown. Look at all of your customers and go through the exercise of having those onboarding discussions that either you didn't have in the first place or should have again to drive that real value. Finally, think about going all in on drivers or carriers and supporting them. For an intermediary, as an example, like look at how to best support your top 50 or 100 carriers better and keep their trucks moving. Reach out to them, have different conversations about the realities that they're facing, not just what lanes they like to move, but like what do they need today to help keep the doors open, and try and figure out how you can help with them with that. If you've underinvested in your carrier network, now is also a time you can think about rebuilding that. There are really, really great backhaul carriers who you can add to your network at this time who previously would have been like, I'm not onboarding new brokers. The advantage the intermediaries have is that the right high service providers are also low cost providers because they're the backhaul market. And this will provide you both immediate benefit of better quality and better price, and a long-term benefit of more stable carrier network. For carriers, you should consider touching your drivers more frequently and doing check-ins to be a sounding board and offer assistance like where they need it, right? Not just maybe not just using your driver managers, but retasking some of your other folks with bandwidth to have those conversations. So like as an example, we've heard of drivers struggling with food insecurity on the road nowadays, given what's shut down, given how early things are shutting down, etc. Like what if you can use some of those extra folks and that extra time available to research like how and where a driver can get food along his or her route? The driver's more productive. Your driver managers or the people who are doing that work can focus on continuing to keep those drivers moving, but somebody else is there still supporting those drivers and really showing that investment in them during a really, really scary time for them. Topic two is kind of the Hail Mary, and I'm going to call this creativity. There are wartime leaders and there are peacetime leaders. And the common theme in companies that win during war and during peace, that they're usually the ones with superior strategy and tactics. And you have to consider the realities that you're in and the strategy and tactics that you're using. They're going to be different. So let's be creative. Before you pull triggers on layoffs, and this is your Hail Mary, look for some last opportunities to get creative. First, like let me level set. The PPP loans are really important tactical step for many companies, but they won't solve every problem that you have to keep you. Your job is keeping the ship afloat. And you may have to lose some sailors along the way. But if your first move is to cut your team, you're doing yourself a disservice. I understand that there are realities of your business. The suggestion is just look and see if there are things you can do to be creative. You can't cut your way to growth. And in some situations, you can't cut your way to survival. So before making cuts to your staff, think about raising your hand and asking for help. Saying that you need help is a sign of strength, not weakness. We've seen this basically play out in two ways for our clients recently. The first, many of our clients have gotten relief from lenders. They've raised their hands, and particularly relating to our trucking clients, where they've been able to go to finance companies and push off payments without penalties for the next few months to improve their cash flow. Right? At the end of the day, we're all cash flow businesses. This has been helpful for them. Many of our clients have also been able to get relief from other debtors, like getting rent abatement or mortgage abatement. It's important in times like these to be a good partner, but that's not mutually exclusive from asking for help. So like going in and demanding things is probably not the right way to approach it with many of your vendors. They have business realities too. But like look at your AP and see where you might be able to get some relief and have those conversations. Raise your hand and ask for help. The second place to ask for help is from your team. Like in the first episode, I talked about how to communicate with your team. And here's a really excellent opportunity to put some of those lessons into practice. Talk with your people about the realities of what the business is facing right now. If it gets to the point where you have to make layoffs to make ends meet, talk to your people first. Many team members are likely willing to take some pay cuts to secure the jobs of other people. Like as an example, if you're going to lay off 25% of your staff, but if everyone takes a 10% pay cut, you can save some, if not all of those jobs. You've heard my team, the CarrierDirect team, me talk about how your people want to your people, your team members want to feel like they're a part of something bigger. They want to work on companies for a mission. They don't just want a job. This is a perfect example of an opportunity to help put them on a mission. Uh, Keep in mind, it's all about how you set it up. If you don't talk openly and honestly about the problems that you're facing as a business and that layoffs are coming and ask and just go in and demand people take pay cuts or just lean into, hey, we're going to have everybody take a 10% pay cut, that reads as a threat instead of asking for help. Part three is kind of like the when all else fails. There is an unfortunate reality in this time that many companies will have to do layoffs. And part three is kind of about like what comes next. Okay, we've done the three things we talked about in the last episode, and we've cut out waste. We've used our teams internally, or we've gotten to the end of that runway, and we've gotten as creative as we can and asked for help everywhere. Now I've got to make some cuts. So first, I'd say here, like, keep in mind that you may have some less drastic options. Furloughs can be a really, really good option, particularly if your cuts have to be to middle tier and top tier performers. Like your business will stabilize, and you do not want to start from square one if you don't have to. Furloughs will allow you to attempt to bring some of those workers back. And while like they'll be able to still request unemployment assistance, et cetera. Like realizing that you may lose some of them between now and then to other opportunities because they are good performers or high performers. But instead of starting from scratch, like you can bring some of them back and you'll be able to ramp that much more quickly. And this can be a real win-win for both of you. And the team that remains behind will have the impression that like you are investing in this team. You're trying to find the best solutions available. There's certainly like an offset to that negativity or negative feeling that people are going to have from layoffs and the kind of doom and gloom. And the people who are laid off, like it gives them another feeling of like support. And lastly, like just remember that whatever you do, treat your people like people. You've heard us say this a number of times, and that's especially true if you have to make layoffs. I recognize that every business faces different realities, but do what you can for the people that you're going to have to lose. Here's where some of what we talked about in this episode comes together and kind of help people land softly. Like waive non-competes. If you can't offer severance, can you consider paying benefits for a short time? If you have internal recruitment resources, can you like repurpose them from filling roles inside your company to do what you can to help the people that are laid off find other positions? Like on behalf of your team, just do your best, be creative, and look for opportunities to like help everyone while also keeping your ship afloat. So, in summary, episode 3 has been about an uncertain future. And while you have some extra human, three topics, right? While you have some extra human capacity, make the best use of it. If you're looking for a Hail Mary, get creative and ask for help. And finally, if you have to make cuts, make sure you're doing it insightfully and remember to treat people like people. If you're facing any of these issues and are looking for a sounding board, feel free to reach out to me, to my teammates at CarrierDirect. And for more from us, my teammates, check us on LinkedIn, look for us in FreightWaves, check out some of our other content on carrierdirect.com/content. I want to hear your feedback. We want to hear your feedback. Feel free to comment on this video or on this podcast, depending on how you're consuming it. And feel free to email me at rschreiber@carrierdirect.com. Until next time, thanks a lot.